Opening up the mailbag, talking about winning ugly. Lots of questions about Neemias Queta and the strongest Boston Celtic. It's all right now on the Locked On Celtics podcast.
Thanks to Blockbuster Brand, it's holiday season. Drop Drew in the mix. And 3 from KP, no, we not on the Knicks. Flushing competition like Al on Giannis. Juice and Big Deuce, still Beantown's finest. Banner 18 going up in the rafters. Watch the Steve game in Locked On after. Karalis on the breakdown. Clutch like a tip from D. White on the breakdown. John on the mic, documenting domination. Matter pen a back bay, it's all C's nation. Rain and Jays, how we started, raising banners, how we finished. Locked On Celtics pod, home of the winners. Peace.
Hey there, welcome back to the Locked On Celtics podcast. It's right here on the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day. I got you covered every Monday through Friday with a free podcast that drops directly to your device when you subscribe. So go ahead and go do that right now. Hit that subscribe button. Get into the YouTube page, subscribe there. Get into the comment sections. Let me know what you're thinking. Maybe you want to answer some of these questions that I got in this mailbag, which those questions go to johnkaralis.com/mailbag. johnkaralis.com/mailbag. That is the only way you're going to get a question in here that I will answer. It's the only way I get them organized. So make sure you do that. That means I am John Karalis. I've been covering the Celtics for about 20 years, doing it as a beat writer for Boston Sports Journal now, and as the author of Built Different, one of 2 Celtics books available on johnkaralis.com for $30 a piece, signed, personalized, delivered to your door in the United States. $30, not a bad deal. Let's get to this mailbag later on. The strongest Celtics. We'll figure out who shoots the technical fouls. Second segment will be entirely Neemias Queta questions because he's the hot topic. But let's just start right off with Paolo, who says, I think some level of coasting is inevitable and probably also desirable. Personally, I want them to win ugly, and they could and should have won ugly against the Hawks too. They won ugly a lot last year. We just have forgotten those games, and now those 64 wins look all beautiful, of course. And yeah, fair enough. That is true. By the way, today's show is brought to you by FanDuel. Start the season with a big return on FanDuel. New customers place a $5 bet, and you get started with $150 in bonus bets. If you win your first $5 bet, visit FanDuel.com to get started. We look back on the wins, 64, and this is what I was saying last year. After each one of these kind of like ugly wins, these tough games, and people were like losing their minds. So we will always forget about this, and we will forget about that Hawks game. That loss was obviously they were terrible. They didn't deserve to win. So I will push back a little bit on sometimes, yes, we want them to win ugly. I would love it if they won these ugly games, but that was not an ugly game. That one in particular was a no effort, take their opponent lightly, disrespected the game kind of game. So when, in my opinion, if the team comes out and does not show the proper respect for the opponent, which means they're not showing proper respect for the game, and they're kind of goofing around and kind of not playing the way they should, that to me, that should be a loss. And that not only should be a loss, that should be a loss where everybody should hear it. The guys should hear and feel some level of sting from that, because you deserve it. You got to at least treat your opponents with some respect. I'm not saying you always have to play well. I'm not saying it's always going to go well. But I want at least some level of respect for the opponent. They're coming out and playing hard. And to me, honestly, people say blowouts are disrespectful. I completely disagree. When I was playing, I didn't care necessarily. Like, I cared that we lost, but when you get blown out, I always felt it as like, wow, we really have to get better, right? And maybe in the moment you feel like there's you feel frustrated, and that's fine. But ultimately, I would hate somebody taking it easy on me. I would rather lose by 50 than watch the other team kind of play around and try to throw these stupid alley-oops and always be goofing around. Like, that would piss me off so much more if we lose to that team by 5 rather than just have a methodical decimation at the hands of a superior opponent. I would rather lose by 50 to a team that is going out there trying hard, playing hard, because at that point I could just be like, wow, they were just so good. They were so good and we are not good. And oh my God, I got to get into the weight room. I got to work on my game. I got to work on my dribble. I got to work on all this stuff so I can be as good as those guys. But if teams are out there laughing and joking and that's when I wanted to fight somebody. So to me, the way you respect the Hawks is to blow them out by 50, to go out there and be a just steady march of basketball awesomeness. That's what I want to see. But sometimes it's not going to go that way. And to Paolo's point, I agree. Winning ugly is a big part of piling up 64 wins. You're going to have the 32% shooting nights. You're going to have the nights where you're trying to move the ball, but man, the passes just aren't there. You're just not feeling it. I understand that. Sometimes the other team just has it going and you don't have it. Trust me, anybody who's played organized basketball knows that there are some games you go out there and you're like, man, I feel horrible right now. I shouldn't, but I do. If you can win those games, then great. So yes, I want to see the Celtics win those games. But if they're going to go out there and be disrespectful, then I want them to lose. I want them to hear and read the stories that talk about how disrespectful they were and how they were, not taking the game seriously, so they can at least take it to heart and be like, yeah, you guys are right. And I'm not trying to embarrass them. I just want them to be like, yep, you guys are right. We did that and we shouldn't do that. So next time we won't. It's very simple as that. And to that point, go listen to Peyton Pritchard's post-game press conference after the Brooklyn win. That will right there is exactly the attitude that they should have. He comes out, he admits it. We were off. We didn't take them seriously. We disrespected our opponent and we got what we deserved. Move on. Next. That's it. Very simple. Meriden asks, do you think the Cavs are a legitimate contender, or is this just one of those runs teams can go on? I know they're injury prone and health can be an issue, but other than that, they could be a hard matchup. And yes, they can be a hard matchup. I mean, they are real. I think the Cavs are very much attitude-wise where the Celtics were last year. They had a pretty embarrassing playoff exit. They had a coach, like coaching issues where, I mean, they have a new coach now, but the Celtics essentially had a new coach last year, right? That was the first real Joe Mazzulla year where he did things his way. So similar, not the same, but similar. They had the issues with Donovan Mitchell, right? Would he come back? Would he not? People were talking about whether he would try to move on. And when he did come back, what did that mean for Darius Garland? How could they coexist? And they said, we're going to make it work. Evan Mobley's trying to answer questions about how good he really is. And there's just a lot with the Cavs that they have something to prove. So they come out in October, November in these games where a team like the Celtics can be like, yeah, we're at 85%. The Cavs are coming out 110%, right? They are coming out, we need to prove this. Donovan Mitchell needs to prove that he wants to be in Cleveland. So he defers to Darius Garland sometimes when he's Donovan Mitchell, and he didn't have to. But there are games where he deferred to Donovan Mitchell. I mean, to Darius Garland. Darius Garland needs to prove things, and he's out there proving those things. So that's, I think, a huge reason why they've won these 13 games, because they have that extra oomph, that extra motivation to try and finish some games off that they might not have finished last year. So that makes them legit. That makes them a contender, because they're going to carry that, I think, for a good part of the season. Now, the question is, do they have some 4 or 5 game losing streaks in them, or do they have what the Celtics did last year, like a couple of 2-game losing streaks, right? If they can avoid the 3, 4, 5-game losing streaks, then now the Celtics have an issue because they're 3 games behind the Cavs, and they still should beat the Cavs. And it does make it more important now that they do beat the Cavs when they play next week, but it's still a question mark about how good are they. I think the Cavs now probably we can pencil them in at the 2nd or 3rd seed probably. Maybe they'll stick around in that 1st seed. Not that it matters too much for Boston, but hey, they want that, and maybe that's something they'll go for. But I feel like they're definitely a contender. They're definitely going to be tough for Boston, and because they've got so much to prove, I think they're going to be fighting for every win they can get all season long. And we'll just have to wait and see if they tail off a little bit. But even if they do, I expect them to just kind of stick around. This is a hell of a start, and it's probably going to stick around for a while. All right, next segment, entirely Neemias Queta. Entirely Neemias Queta in the next segment, so stick around for that. Today's show is brought to you by Robinhood and Robinhood Gold. With Robinhood Gold, you don't need a silver spoon to eat up the financial favors of the 1%. Robinhood Gold allows others to get the rates and perks usually reserved for the high society. Now, the resourceful individual with Robinhood Gold can earn the very liberal rate of 4.25% APY on uninvested cash and be rewarded with a handsome 3% retirement boost on IRA account contributions. Robinhood Gold provides the privileges of high net worth for any net worth. These generous benefits are now available for only $5 a month. The new gold standard is here with Robinhood Gold. Sign up at Robinhood.com. So sign up at Robinhood.com/gold. Terms apply. For product-specific disclosures, visit Robinhood.com/gold. Investing involves risk. Rate may change. Gold membership is offered by Robinhood Gold, LLC. Thank you for making Locked On Celtics your first listen every day. Make sure you are subscribed to the new Locked On Celtics newsletter delivered directly to your inbox. One stop for ultimate team and league coverage. Sign up for free right now at LockedOnDaily.com. That's LockedOnDaily.com to start your day with the all-new Locked On Celtics newsletter. Back to the mailbag, and all of these questions are about Neemias Queta. Barry, let's start with him. It says 24th in points in the paint, allowing massive amounts of offensive rebounds. Isn't it obvious that Queta isn't up to the task and Horford has lost a step? Neemias' hands are like oven mitts. Let's be honest. He's clearly high-level G League player that they're trying to make into something else. How long till Porzingis is back? It can't come soon enough. Wow. All right. I don't know if Sam Packard wrote that in or not, but that's from Barry. All right. To be honest, I am not the biggest Neemias Queta guy in the world. I don't think he's high-level G League player, but I think that he has a lot of work to do still, right? His hands are not great. So that's true. You have to hit him. You have to hit him pretty much directly with the pass. I do think that he's still getting lost sometimes, but as I said on the podcast before, he's a product of low expectations. The expectations for him were low. He's he's exceeding those, and people are like, "Wow, oh my God, that's great." But if he'd had this exact same performance with the expectations of him being good or the 6th man or 7th man, people would be like, okay, maybe it could be better. So, but let me address points in the paint and offensive rebounds. It's not always about the bigs. In fact, it's more about the guards, Barry. 24th in points in the paint. How is that happening? Turnovers and transition layups, right? You got to get back. So when the Celtics have those high turnover games, which aren't always happening, but the high turnover games, live ball turnovers lead to points in the paint because they're all layups. Perimeter defense has not been good. So I think Queta has actually helped shore that up a little bit, but we've seen some instances of where Queta's come over to help and his guy has gone uncovered, and that guy either gets a pass or gets the offensive rebound. So starting with dribble penetration and teams saying, well, we don't care about Queta back there. We'll go at him. We'll try him. As opposed to Porzingis, who should be back. We could be a couple of weeks from him being back, by the way. When you're asking, when is he back? This is the November 15th show. That's 2 more weeks, gets us close to the beginning of December. 3 weeks gets us into December. So 3 weeks, maybe? He's itching to be back, and so we're closing in on it. When Porzingis is back there, you're going to have a lot of guys beating the perimeter defenders and seeing Porzingis and being like, you know what? Never mind. We're just going to kick this out. With Queta there, I think teams are like, you know what? We're going to challenge this guy. I want to see what he can do. So there's less fear. So the fear of Porzingis helps the perimeter defense. When there is no fear, and the guys do turn the corner, that leads to points in the paint. And when the help comes over, that leads to offensive rebounds. I think there's the wings that aren't blocking out effectively. And so guys are swooping in for some of these offensive rebounds. So it's not necessarily about Queta. It's not necessarily about Al Horford either, right? When you look at the rebounds, I know it's easy to think, well, the bigs should be getting the rebounds. But if the bigs are pulled out of position in today's NBA, I'm looking at guard play, perimeter play as the main kind of issues that face the Celtics. Queta is actually kind of helping that a little bit. Michael says, you said in a recent game report on bostonsportsjournal.com, one skill I'd like to see him develop is keeping the ball high off catches and just laying it softly off the glass for layups. It's an easy skill to pick up, and it will make him that much more effective. He says, I'm guessing you base that easy skill to pick up in part on your own personal experience. That's correct. But I feel like keep the ball high has been said basically about every big man who has come through Boston since the McHale era. And it seems to me that most of these guys never do pick it up. Is it really that easy? Yes, it is that easy. It's a habit. It's just a habit. It's understanding what your situation is, right? Understanding I've caught the ball here. It's the pass is high. I am in traffic. If I just keep the ball up high and jump, I'm right there. A guy with Queta's size, with his massive wingspan, if he catches the ball up high, the ball is already like above the bottom of the net. So just quick second jump, lay it right up off the glass, and you're good. Luke Cornett does a good job of this. And there are, if you see guys doing this, you see it's just so easy to get into to get those baskets by catching it high, keeping it high. You just have to keep doing it, right? In practice, the coaches have to keep throwing him the high passes, and every time he brings it down, you whack him with a broom or one of those big foam things that they have on there at the ends of their hands. Every time he brings it down, you just whack him and you get him into the habit. Catch it high, keep it high, lay it in. Because if you're not going to catch a lob and dunk it, if you're going to catch it and land, just quick second jump, lay it up off the glass. You're going to score. You don't need to dunk everything. The problem with big guys is they feel like they need to dunk everything. And Queta is athletic, but he is a low gatherer. If he's going to jump, he gets real low, and then he tries to jump. And so when you do that, you're bringing the ball down to the level of everyone else who's shorter than you. So catch it high, keep it high, lay it off the glass. Very simple. Learn it in Portuguese. Play it over the loudspeakers in Portuguese. However you need to do it. Catch it high, keep it high, lay it off the glass. Have a family member there on the baseline screaming at him to keep it high. You know what I mean? It's just repetition. Any of these things are repetition. So I think if I'm the Celtics and he's in practice, that's what you do. Just practice. I understand the compulsion to bring it down and gather, If you just keep it high and go right back up, you're going to score. Finally, Heather says, is Queta the new Robert Williams? I kind of talked about that briefly in a previous podcast, but he's not the new Robert Williams. I understand that people want to have a new Robert Williams. I don't think we should really worry about that so much. Rob is a super athlete. He does a lot of things well. I think he's much better when he's healthy, much better than Neemias Queta. I think Queta is a much different kind of player. So yes, Queta can catch some lobs. He is not as athletic as Rob is. He is not. I know people talk about how athletic he is. I get it. He's athletic for a big man. Rob is athletic, just one of the most athletic people in the league. So that's not what Queta is. Queta is athletic for a big man and can be effective, but he's not the new Robert Williams. All right, let's have some fun with the next questions. Talking about technical free throws. Who's the strongest player on the Celtics? And a way to maybe avoid some load management. Talk about all of that when we come back. Today's show is brought to you by FanDuel. Get ready to tackle the NFL action with FanDuel, America's #1 sports book. Right now, new customers, you bet $5, you get $150 in bonus bets if you win. So go to that FanDuel Sportsbook app. It gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL or the NBA all in one place. So if you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and a whole lot more on the same page where you place your bets. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. Make sure you're using the tools that they have available to set your limits, set your budget, whatever you can afford. That's what you set the budget at, and then have fun. If you run out, then you run out. Come back next week, next month, whatever, and pick it back up at FanDuel. Place that first $5 bet. Get $150 in bonus bets if you win at FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch. Make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. Thank you for making Locked On Celtics your first listen every day. Go check out Locked On NBA, 2 Locked On NBA podcasts. So there's one in the afternoon, a little more of a debate show format. And at night, that's where I'm with Jake Madison on Fridays. So yeah, I'm going to be watching the Jazz and the Mavs play one game. So we'll have some fun with that game and some other stuff. So make sure you subscribe to the Locked On NBA podcast wherever you get your podcasts. Back to the mailbag, which can be submitted, johnkaralis.com/mailbag. Mike says, Joe Mazzulla doesn't seem to be a coach who would throw away points, so I'm wondering why he has Jayson Tatum shoot free throws on technical fouls when he has either Derek White, Peyton Pritchard on the court with Tatum. Both of those guys are much better free throw shooters. Well, it's funny because Joe was asked that question in Brooklyn, and he said, I have nothing to do with it. That's up to the guys on the floor. They can figure it out. And that's basically it. It's not like college. College coach will tell you who's shooting the free throws. In the NBA, star players say, I got it. Don't worry about it. Because Tatum is like, look, if we're giving away free points, I want them. I need them. I'm trying to get somewhere with this. But what they should be doing is, I agree, Peyton Pritchard should probably be shooting all of the technical free throws. But Tatum, I don't know what's up with Tatum's free throw shooting. In fact, let me just pop that up real quick because it feels to me that Tatum is having a slow start to his free throw shooting this season. He is at 81%, which I swear it would have been lower. It feels like it's lower. Maybe just he's had a couple of bad games. No, you know what? Maybe he's just missing some because I'm like, he's 7 of 9 against Brooklyn, 8 of 8 against Atlanta, 13 of 15 against Milwaukee, 6 of 7 against Brooklyn at home, 7 of 9 against Golden State. Maybe it's just the timing of them. I don't know. But he's shooting 81%. So it's not outrageous to say that he should be shooting those free throws, but he's not Peyton Pritchard. But to answer the question directly, no, it's the players figure it out. And that's fine. That's fine in the NBA. Should be Should be enough self-awareness somewhere along the way, but I get it. Chris asks, does anyone keep track of the players' weightlifting? Who do you think is the strongest on the team? Nobody publicly keeps track of the weightlifting, although I would love to see, hey, what do you bench? Do you even lift, bro? you see like a list on the whiteboard in the locker room. So I don't know who is the strongest, the actual strongest by numbers, but just by looking around, I mean, obviously Jaylen Brown feels like he would be. And what do you think is the strongest? Like, what are we basing it on? Are we basing it on bench press? Are we basing it on like deadlifts? What are we talking about? Because some guys can maybe deadlift a bunch and not bench as much, and vice versa. So, who's the strongest? Jaylen stands out as the obvious strongest. I mean, he looks bigger this year. Drew Holiday, I think, is probably like sneaky strong. Like he probably can go out there and bust out some high bench reps. Low key, Al Horford. I feel like Al Horford can probably put some reps up. You don't think of him as like super strong at first. Then you realize how big he is, and you see like he's strong. He is a strong guy. So those would be my three choices as far as just the strongest Celtic on the team. Everyone else, like Tatum, has done incredible work on his body, but it's not as far as like racking up numbers. It's more functional. I think some guys are just super strong and functional. So those are the three that I'm going to go with. And let's wrap it up here with Charlie, who says, hey, John, hot take here. I love that. Player point average should also be based on how many games missed, AKA if a player has missed a game due to injury, load management, that point average for the day would be 0. I believe this would really entice players to play more while also taking care of their bodies throughout the year. It's an interesting concept, right? You play 82 games, so whatever you score total is divided by 82. It would make it interesting to see which guys would keep playing through stuff. Ultimately, I don't think this is fair to the guys who are legitimately hurt, right? Like you're averaging 30 points a game, you've played 30 games and you suffer a torn Achilles. I'm not exactly like looking to punish that guy for having that injury, right? So if he's averaged 30 points a game, you got to look at the games played. And I think this speaks to maybe a little bit of a misconception about load management, that it's the players who are doing it. It's the teams who are doing it. The teams are the ones who are telling the players, you're off today. And they have the metrics, the stuff on the bodies. Like guys are playing with this like sports bra looking thing that has like measurements that takes their vitals and oxygen. And like, it's crazy the amount of data that these medical teams, these training staffs have on each player. They can tell, hey, this guy is getting fatigued. We need to watch him. And maybe that means a lighter practice or a day off outside of a game, or maybe it means a minutes restriction, or maybe it means a game off. But it's the teams that are doing this. It's the teams that are setting these parameters, and they're like, okay, your baseline is this. And if you can't meet this baseline, that means you're fatigued, and that means you're at a greater risk for injury, and we're not going to do that to you. So have a seat. So while I understand this need to, the league wants to see players out there. They don't want to see star players missing games, important games, nationally televised games. They don't want to see the load management as much. But I think it's also important to understand that players are doing more than ever. They're running more than ever. The workload is more than ever. They are working all year long. They are not like we talk about the guys in the past. Well, those guys played all these games, but yeah, those guys also were working their way into shape at the beginning of the season, right? They weren't always they weren't ready the way these guys are ready, right? All of our heroes, we have to understand that maybe if you go back with a critical eye, be like, oh God, these guys all came into camp out of shape. You come into camp out of shape now, that is an indictment on you. Before, everybody was playing themselves into shape. So it's a little bit different, but I understand the concern, and it's an interesting concept, but I think it's placed. I think there's something more team-based about trying to figure out getting guys to play more, if they should play more, and all of that. All right. Remember, questions can come in to johnkaralis.com/mailbag, johnkaralis.com/mailbag. So if you want to ask a question, send them in. I get them in all the time. I try to answer. I try to do shows like this every once in a while to answer some of these questions that are coming in. Hopefully, if I don't, maybe I sprinkle them in throughout the week here and there. Maybe I answer them organically. So that means you have to be listening all the time. So please listen every day. Make sure that you're listening, subscribed to the podcast on the audio feed, on the YouTube feed. Get into that comment section, hop in there, join fellow Celtics fans in one of the few good YouTube comment sections. Have fun there and share the podcast. Tell everybody they should be listening to and watching the Locked On Celtics podcast here on the Locked On Podcast Network. It's your team every day.